As consumers in the age of climate change, we're constantly bombarded by advertisements for new eco-friendly products. But how much of this is genuine? And how much is just a well-crafted illusion? And what does that mean for our future on planet Earth? Let's find out. This is Painting It Green. Picture this. You're at the store trying to pick between two different cleaners. One package looks like this. It's harsh, rigid, heavy-duty, and chemical. The other package looks like this. It's gentle, pure, clean, and natural. And of course, when you look at it, it appears to be environmentally friendly. But if you look deeper at it, you might realize that it's all just a facade. This is what's known as greenwashing. As Merriam-Webster defines it, greenwashing is the act or practice of making a product, policy, activity, etc. appear to be more environmentally friendly or less environmentally damaging than it really is. And this happens a lot more than you'd think. Since green marketing and the aesthetic of sustainability in general have become popular trends today, greenwashing has become rampant. Every clothing store at the mall has an eco line, every household cleaner has a green competitor, and every company has a self-praising sustainability report. Now don't get me wrong, it's totally okay to advertise the sustainable qualities of your product, but that's only if there are actually sustainable qualities to begin with. You see, greenwashing is all about using consumer psychology to purposefully deceive and to eventually profit. It's a marketing gimmick, and it gets us time and time again. And as consumers, we need to know how to spot it. Luckily though, greenwashing boils down to a slew of pretty common visual and semiotic techniques. And once you get good at spotting them, the more laughable these techniques become. The use of the color green has to be the most obvious indicator of greenwashing. No eco-friendly product would be complete without decking it out in 50 shades of green. Green tags, green bottles, green signs, green storefronts, green everything. I mean, it's smart though. Green carries so much embedded meaning for us. The color green itself is embedded with conscious and subconscious meaning. We instinctively associate it with nature, environmentalism, growth, lushness, renewal, tranquility, life, all positive traits that you'd want your product to convey. And that's the power of psychology and marketing. Green is no longer just a color, it's a powerful promise. Another common semiotic technique is the use of natural imagery. You'll see leaves and trees, or water and beautiful mountains. Or you might see some cute fluffy animals. This gives off the illusion that the product is gentle on the planet and helps to create a bountiful ecosystem. Spoiler alert, probably doesn't. Another thing to point out is that eco-branded products are often accompanied by intentionally natural and organic-looking graphic design. In addition to lots of trendy fonts and minimalistic packaging design, you'll also see tons of organic tones and textures to really pull the natural effect together. Tricks like these are just some of the many ways that companies will lure you into buying their eco-products. That's why TerraChoice has outlined something called the 7 sins of greenwashing. So let's talk about these 7 sins and look at some examples of big companies that committed them. First off, there's the sin of hidden trade-offs. This sin describes a situation where an environmental concern is seemingly solved by the company, but this solution actually contributes to another concerning issue. For example, in 2019, McDonald's celebrated their big switch to paper straws to help, quote, protect the environment. But they didn't actually disclose that their new straws, although paper, weren't even recyclable, whereas their plastic straws from before were. A small reduction in plastic consumption, although a step in the right direction, shouldn't be applauded as a sustainable solution without actually addressing the challenge of waste reduction. And in this case, the solution is setting us back. Number 2, the sin of no proof. This sin describes environmental claims that are not backed by evidence or third-party verification. Budget airline Ryanair had their advertisements banned for claiming that their fleet creates the lowest amount of carbon emissions from any airline. The Advertising Standards Authority actually found that claim to be unsubstantiated and misleading. Remember, genuinely sustainable brands and products will back up their claims with evidence. And if they aren't, well, that means they probably don't have any. Number 3, the sin of vagueness. You'll often hear terms like environmentally conscious, eco-friendly, biodegradable, natural, or even something as simple as green. These terms convey a sense of sustainability without ever actually using that word. And that's because sustainability is a term that's actionable, measurable, definable, but these terms are vague and undefinable. Did you know that currently, even if a product and its packaging take a gazillion years to break down, it can still legally be labeled biodegradable? Or did you know that you can label something natural or plant-based, even if that's only true for a small portion of the ingredients? Since these claims are not officially regulated, they're subjective terms dictated by the company itself and whatever they deem to be natural. As the Green Business Bureau puts it, the overuse of these terms and the absence of any clear set criteria has led to the dilution of such terms, rendering them meaningless and interchangeable. Number 4, the sin of worshipping false labels. Sometimes companies will use false certifications or misleading labels to make the customers think that the product or service has gone through a legitimate screening process when it hasn't. This will often manifest in the form of vague-looking icons that resemble familiar stamps from sustainable organizations. So a bunny or a leaf. They're meant to feel familiar and trustworthy because they're similar to something real, but these ones don't actually mean anything. Number 5, the sin of irrelevance. The sin of irrelevance describes products and services that advertise obvious environmental claims that just don't matter. For example, CFCs were banned under the Montreal Protocol over 30 years ago. If a company tries to advertise their product's lack of CFCs as a selling point over their competitors, it's meaningless because that's standard across the board. This leads us to number 6, the sin of the lesser of two evils. This is when a claim is true for one part of the product, but it distracts from a whole other set of health and environmental issues. This is like saying clean diesel or green plastic bags. Don't make a big deal about one tiny green attribute on a totally otherwise anti-green product. Their minute changes may be better than doing nothing, but it's still deceptive to overinflate the merit of such changes. And finally, we have number 7, the sin of fibbing. This one's simple. It's when an environmental claim is made that is downright false. Just last year, H&M landed themselves a lawsuit for false claims made by their eco-product line, H&M Conscious. Customers found themselves paying more for items that they expected to be sustainable, but they actually weren't. Many of the products in the collection were advertised to use less water, but they actually ended up using more. H&M claims the discrepancy was a result of technical issues. Those are the 7 sins. But I'd like to throw in one bonus sin that I think is important. So number 8, the sin of fine printing. This is when a flashy environmental claim is made, but when you read the fine print or do some digging, you realize that it's not as good as it sounds. Not to throw McDonald's under the bus again, but here's a prime example. They claim that they've committed to sustainable beef sourcing, which sounds great, but then when you take a closer look at the fine print, you can see that it's only 30%, and only for one type of their burgers. This tricks customers into believing a claim, when in reality it's only partially true. So keep an eye out for advertisements like this one that make blanket claims that almost sound too good to be true. So now that we know what to look for in greenwashed products, let's go to the hub for all things consumerism and flashy marketing, the mall. So we made it to the mall, and let's see what products we can find. To be a little bit more fair on these products, we're going to look at a tool from an independent organization called Good On You. They provide sustainable and ethical ratings for a bunch of different fashion brands. My first stop at the mall was H&M. I was looking for any remnants of H&M Conscious, but they seem to have tightened up their act. I saw lots of different tags promising lots of different things. Nothing too crazy, but after a while it all started to feel the same. Good On You has given H&M a score of not good enough, which isn't surprising because they create short-lived fast fashion products. Next, I went to Ardene, and I found their eco product line called Collective, and I noticed these vague-looking environmental icons on their tags. Ardene's rating was "We Avoid" because they actually used hazardous chemicals in its supply chain. Speaking of icons, next I went to American Eagle and I saw this sign: "Love your jeans, love your planet." In the middle, there's this use of the circular icon, but it doesn't actually mean that the product has a circular life cycle. It's a logo. American Eagle's sustainability rating was not good enough, which is better than Ardene at least. I went to a couple other stores after this, but at this point all of these eco tags started to feel the same, so I decided to switch things up and go to Walmart. Here they had so many eco-branded cleaning products, especially their own line called Eco. They even had half of an entire aisle dedicated towards eco-disposable products, which is sort of a contradiction. Also, a quick example of the lie of composting and the need to look at fine print. It says in large text on this box, compostable, but when you read the fine print, it says only in industrial facilities. And then, if you read the even finer print, it says that their facilities do not exist in many communities. So, where actually can you compost it? Looking at the ingredients of a product can often tell you the other side of the story as well. So I picked up this bag of rabbit food called Wild Harvest, but then I turned the bag around to find an entire paragraph of non-wild sounding ingredients, including but not limited to formaldehyde, a toxic gas that's used in plywood, paper, and resin products, cobalt carbonate, a chemical used to make paint, and propylene glycol, a chemical used to make brake fluid and antifreeze. You know, things that you think of when you hear Wild Harvest. This example is scary because it shows how greenwashing and misrepresenting the true nature of the product's ingredients can actually be detrimental to our health. Finally, I checked out the Canadian department store Simon's, which might have been the most green presenting store we've seen today. I mean, look at their logo, their storefront, their website. It's all very green with lots of natural motifs. They seem to really care about sustainability as it was such a big part of their branding. There were these signs all over the store that read, "Redefining sustainable fashion, find our green tags." And find them I did. I was honestly impressed with how many different green tags they had. This one even advertised 30 plastic bottles that were used to make the sweater, which I thought was really cool. But then, when I looked up Simon's on Good For You, I was surprised and disappointed to see the worst score so far. It just goes to show how cautious and skeptical you have to be as a consumer these days. You can't take anything at face value. And the sad reality is that a lot of these attempts to appear green just mask or deflect from existing issues on behalf of the company. For companies, racking in the big bucks is really all that's ever mattered. Environmental marketing and greenwashing was never actually about helping the planet or caring about our people. It's just a way to make a quick profit. If you're more of a business person, you might be sitting there thinking, well, this is just smart marketing. And marketing is all about convincing the consumer to buy a product. And anyways, businesses need to make money. So if you make them actually do sustainable things, it will only cut their profits. Well, I hear you, but let's take a look at the 3 Ps of sustainability, also known as the triple bottom line. The 3 Ps refer to people, profits, and the planet. And this framework shows us that these 3 major aspects of business can still work in harmony and not in competition. And it's not just that they can work in harmony, but that they need to. Because we don't actually win unless all 3 categories are properly honored. We can't sacrifice the planet and our people in the name of profits, which is exactly what's been happening for so long. As we've seen with the countless examples of greenwashing, companies are using the hot topic of climate change as a selling tactic, simply to make more profits. And as a subversive marketing technique with ample consumer buy-in, I see it sticking around for a while, and actually becoming more popular as the climate continues to decline. So yes, it's true that it's smart marketing, and it convinces shoppers to buy the product. But the case of greenwashing is different from other kinds of persuasive marketing, because the stakes are so much larger. When items like these are made up to be sustainable, when they really aren't, they leave customers thinking that they've played their part to help sustain our planet. Companies capitalize on the feeling of helplessness and responsibility that we feel while offering no real solution. Buying greenwash products encourages companies to offload the onus onto the customer and skimp out on any legitimate legwork. And these efforts only distract and delay us from our impending climate crisis. As a result, the well-being of the planet that we live on and our people are cheated from the real change that we need. Remember, we live in a world where just 100 companies are responsible for 71% of our global greenhouse gas emissions, and it's been this way since 1998. For decades, these companies have deflected and spun the narrative, and that seems to only be heightened in 2023 when green marketing is all the rage. So as consumers, it's time to stop and reflect. If they want to put profits before us and the planet, let's put ourselves and the planet before them. Why should we prioritize the wealth of big corporations and their cushy billionaires over the longevity of our planet and the well-being of the human race in general? In the age of the Anthropocene, and with the looming threat of climate change hanging over us, it matters now more than ever to care about our impact on the planet. We are experiencing unprecedented environmental change. We're consistently breaking records for global temperatures, carbon emissions, freak natural disasters, you name it. Scientists across the globe are telling us that we're almost at the tipping point, the point of no return, and we're just supposed to sit back and let the problem fix itself by buying eco-friendly toilet paper and using paper straws? No, that can't be the answer. Something needs to change. But as a society, if we collectively rethink our understanding of sustainability and the way that we approach it moving forward, we can actually get a lot done. Because if the climate is changing, then so should we. So we've looked at the past, we've looked at the present. Now it's time to look towards the future, which is the most important part of all of this. For a truly sustainable future, we need to rethink what sustainability actually means to us. Because clearly what we're doing now isn't working so well. As we've established, companies want us to feel like we're doing our part when we choose one sustainably branded product over another. Like when we purchase one of their green cleaners or reusable bags, we're being sustainable. That's how corporations want us to approach sustainability, always through the lens of consumption. But that's not actually what sustainability means. Because the truth is, the most sustainable items are the ones we already own, or the ones that are already out there in the world. We're currently experiencing a crisis of stuff. We produce and purchase way too much stuff for our own good, and it's a huge problem. A 2015 study found that the production and use of household goods and services was responsible for 60% of global greenhouse gas emissions. So buying more things is not the answer to the crisis. Instead, let's ask ourselves, do I need another t-shirt at all? Do I even need a straw to drink this? Could I make this cleaner out of non-toxic ingredients that I already have at home? Could I borrow this tool from a friend instead of buying it new? Buying unnecessary and often fake eco-products in the store is not the solution. In fact, it's just the opposite. We need to be actively limiting the items that we produce, purchase, and ultimately waste. We also need to remember that even the greenest of brands and products may never truly be sustainable. Even if emissions and waste are minimized, Some business models are inherently problematic and unsustainable. Fast fashion doesn't benefit the planet. Big oil and gas won't ever be green. Factory farm beef can't actually be sustainable. Single-use products are not going to be sustainable, and that's just not what sustainability means. So when you're trying to figure out if a product is sustainable or not, try to think deeper about the processes and systems that it's entangled in. Right now, these products are far from sustainable because their production and life cycles are inherently destructive. Instead, to ensure a properly sustainable future, we need to invest in something called the circular economy. This refers to a system where materials never become waste and nature is regenerated. Whereas a traditional product life cycle might be a short line from production to disposal, circular product life cycles don't have a planned endpoint like that. It sees life cycles as exactly that, a cycle. In a circular economy, products and materials are kept in circulation through processes like maintenance, reuse, refurbishment, recycling, composting, and upcycling. This is exactly how we should conceive of sustainability moving forwards. And the circular economy isn't just something that pertains to product designers. It's a way of thinking, and that extends to all aspects of life, including us consumers and our day-to-day lives. So, here are some things that you can do to demonstrate this circular mindset. Instead of thinking in the now, let's look to invest in more long-term solutions regarding our consumption.
Some affordable long-term switches that I've invested in include glass straws instead of plastic, Swedish dishcloths instead of paper towels, and beeswax wraps instead of plastic wrap. You just need to buy them once, and you can reuse them indefinitely.
If you aren't able to invest in long-term swaps, see instead how long you can extend the life cycles of your products. You could pass along outgrown clothes to your friends and family. You can repurpose or reuse empty food jars. You can turn food scraps into something else. You could repair or upcycle something that broke. You could donate unused items to the thrift stores or charity shops. These are just some ideas that I had. But really, there are so many ways that you can implement sustainable living and thinking in your own lives. And the cool thing is, a lot of the time, investing in sustainable switches even saves you money in the long run. So it's a win-win. So next time you're at the store and you see 30 kinds of eco cleaners next to 50 kinds of regular cleaners, remember, that's not what this fight is about. We have to think bigger. To properly interpret sustainability, we need to do our best to actively limit all this corporate noise that tries to turn the complex issue of climate change and environmentalism into a vehicle for consumerism. So, in order to rethink sustainability, we need to rethink our habits of consumerism, as well as our relationships with these products and these companies. Because at the end of the day, sustainability is a mindset and not a product. That's the future of sustainability. We owe it to ourselves and to the earth.